Many of you know me. My name is Nicky. I'm a freshman at GCC, and it's a little unexpected, but if you guys knew me, you'd really see me as like such a happy person. But in actuality, if I were to describe myself before I came to college, I'd say I was a really sad person, actually. I was sad in my emotions, sad in almost all of my relationships, and I was just sad that I was living. Depression runs in my family, and I knew it was in me when I was 11. I wanted to kill myself each and every day. I thought I didn't deserve life. I thought I was useless, and I was basically nothing. I thought it was normal to have these thoughts daily, actually. I thought it was normal wanting to kill myself every single day. And, I lost the regard for my life, and I really didn't want to handle anything anymore. I never told anyone, and so when I learned one of my closest cousins attempted suicide, I couldn't bear the thought of suicide anymore. I vowed to myself and made a resolve that I would never kill myself because I could never put my family through that. I could never make them feel like they lost their son. And so, whenever it came up, whenever my depression came back, whenever I wanted to kill myself, I'd run and I'd hide and I'd cry. And, for the past 8 years, I've just lived in a constant torture of loneliness and sadness. I was useless, and I felt broken. And to me, all I was filled with were lies and deceit. I had a sense of pride, but at the same time, a contradicting sense of shame. I really hated myself. I really did want to die, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I tried, but I couldn't commit. The constant torture of sadness lasted me into college. And in college, as we all know, alcohol is more available. And I was basically set loose. Oddly, I was looking forward to a world of sadness and pain. My goal in life was only to see how far I could get before I could die. And one night, when I had planned on going drinking that night, I was originally with my friends, but I planned on taking them home and just decided I would just drink to myself. Except, God had a different plan for me. On that night, I had walked outside my apartment and found 3 GCC YAs and a cat named Soho. Now, I'm actually quite captivated by animals, and so when I saw the cat, I kind of wanted to play with the cat. And so I met these YAs, and I talked to them about food and the cat. And as we were talking, we basically did the basic introduction, who I was, what school I went to, and so they asked me if I knew any other Drexel kids. And it was only the first week of school, or around there, and I didn't actually know that many. So they invited me to an event, and surprise, it was Mini-Nose. As soon as I got there the next day, I was instantly placed into my current family group, Fruit Ninjas, and honestly, meeting so many people that day was incredibly overwhelming. And the people I met, I liked them, and I would say hi to them, I would make conversation with them, but the thing was, I wanted to break ties with them still, because I wasn't Christian. I wasn't a person who believed in God. I couldn't relate to them, I couldn't talk to them, but no matter what I said to them to get them off my back, they always came after me. They always They always invited me to events. They always invited me to FNL's service. And no matter how many times I ran, as we all know, it's almost impossible to run away from GCC. And so one night, I was working in the library, and I actually got this urge to go to FNL. I really didn't want to, but I did. But when I did, I broke down, and I cried over my sadness. I basically said to myself, what was I doing here? Why am I doing this? And so I went home that night immediately after, and I cried. I didn't know what to do, but I tried praying. And when I was praying, I wanted to come back. I came back to the next FNL. And so on that FNL, on October 25th, I broke down crying again. And Pastor Young had told us to go into the aisle if we needed prayer. And I was really reluctant, but I went anyways. And so I was just crying and praying to God. I was like, why? Why, God? Why am I here? Why did you bring me back? And one of the GCCYAs that had found me that night had found me again, and he prayed for me. And he explained so much to me, how God was starting to break me, how he was molding me, and after that, I decided to consistently come back. I wanted to learn more about God. Why was it that everything I used to think and believe in was so easily broken? I became more comfortable with who God was and why we worshiped him. And so about 3 months later, we had retreat. And it was really solidified for me. I wanted to believe in God. I wanted him, I saw him, and during retreat, I came to believe even more of who he was. I felt like I truly felt his love, and I was happy, I was satisfied, and I was convicted to learn more. But a week after, I was hit hard. I was in for the biggest spiritual attack, and ironically, it was actually the baptism announcement that caused it. It made me question what I was doing. It felt like God put a giant red stop sign in front of me and said, stop and think about what you're doing. And so I thought about it, and soon after, I realized I was doubting everything, and I didn't know what it meant to love God. And so after that, I fell into my depression again. I wanted to end my life, and after some thought, after talking to some brothers, and after talking to some sisters, I realized something. I needed to forgive and change myself, but I never felt better after that. I felt worse, actually. I had to leave, but it was something that didn't help my emotions. And so I continued to go to church, I continued to go to family group, I went to ministry, but all I could ever think was, why am I here? Why should I believe in God? Why should I worship him? I disregard my life, so why should I care that he saved me? But, you know, I was talking to one sister, and she had told me something. She said to me, God will love you no matter what, even if you don't love him. And I was actually really struggling with this message. And so, another thing happened after that. I went to an FNL, and I tried praying even more and talking to God. And he told me something. He told me that I needed to break down all the barriers that I put up because of my depression. All the barriers to keep me away from the pain of getting to know people and being heard by people. But those barriers were something I held so dearly, and I couldn't bear that fact. And it was basically like destroying a facade I made and I valued so much. And then another thing came up, family group. we had a discussion, and one of the questions was, is knowledge or love more powerful in you? And I wanted to say love, but I couldn't. I didn't have any love in me, and I didn't love God. All I had was the knowledge of who God was and what He's done for us. And so that night, I was just broken. We had overflow practice that night as well, and that night, everyone could tell I was out of it, but I would never tell anyone what was going on. But as soon as it ended, I went to the bathroom and I cried. After that, I found the overflow leader. I told him I couldn't give a testimony at Osho because I was actually really against baptism at that time. I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel like I was ready for who God was, for accepting God into my heart. But then I thought it over, and I knew I needed to talk to someone. So I talked to him. And he told me that to understand and to love God, I should understand God's love for us. And that as soon as I thought about it, after all the things I've done, after running away so much, I learned that it was similar to the story of the prodigal son. And as Luke 15, verse 32 says, "But we had to celebrate and be glad because the brother of yours is dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." All of my issues began to slowly fade away. I learned how I can begin to follow God and how I can love Him. I learned that as long as I can depend on Him, He will carry me. I decided to get baptized because I began to believe in Him and because my belief became firm in Him. I decided to accept and worship Christ once again. I could finally accept submitting to Him and feeling good enough to enter His heavenly kingdom. God is something more to me now, and I want to find out more of who He is. And although this journey is a tough one, no one ever said that the Christian life was easy. My depression still afflicts me today, but God changed what it is to me now. He broke down my walls, He made me vulnerable, and He helped me begin loving people and evangelizing in His name. God stopped me from ever dying for a reason. I just need to find out what it is. My life after coming to Christ it's still been incredibly difficult, but I know that I'm not far on my walk, but I have a few things to learn, but from everything that's happened, Christian life it's a much harder life than a life without Christ. It never gets easy. It's harder, but worth so much more. And from everything that's happened, I learned something. God's fun in multiple ways. Some things make me laugh, others make me want to cry. But most importantly, I learned Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope and love by the power of the Holy Spirit. I said that church wasn't my thing, but I learned that because of my newfound trust in God that I've come to love and follow, church is my thing. Thank you.